Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom, I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate here in the office of the Prime Minister this Thursday, the 19th of December, day 440 of the October 7th war. A very quick update from me and then to your questions, which you should put in the chat with your news outlet. First, on the Houthis, in the wee small hours of this morning at 2:30 a.m., air raid sirens went off across the center of Israel. Millions of Israelis were sent to bomb shelters. A Houthi ballistic missile fired from Yemen to this country. Why? To kill Israelis. So what does that mean in reality? I'll tell you. That means if you have kids and they're sleeping in their beds, you've got to pick them up, get them out of bed and get them into a bomb shelter, all in a minute and a half. If you are a retiree, if you're a mum or if you're a dad, if you're a patient in a hospital, if you're a Jew, if you're a Muslim, a Christian or a Druze, or none of the above, if you were in Israel last night, the Houthis tried to kill you. The government instructed our Air Force, our Navy, to make precise strikes against military Houthi terror targets on Yemen's western coast and inland, Hodeidah and other ports and energy infrastructure in Sana'a. Iranian-directed Houthi and Iraqi militias have repeatedly attacked Israel with UAVs and surface-to-surface missiles. 200 of these from Yemen alone. Why do they do these things? To undermine regional stability and disrupt freedom of navigation. The Prime Minister has just now said that yes, the Houthis attack us here in Israel, but they also attack the entire world. International shipping and trade routes. So when Israel acts against the Houthis, it is acting for the entire international community. The US well understands this, as do many others. So after Hamas, Hezbollah and the Assad regime, the Houthis are practically the last remaining arm of Iran's evil axis. As the Prime Minister said, they are learning the hard way that whoever attacks Israel will pay a heavy price. Now, the missile was intercepted, but there was serious damage to the Ramat Ifal school in Ramat Gan, partially from the interception and partially from the warhead. And you can see the picture behind me. Next, the latest Human Rights Watch report has emerged. Let me share our government's reaction to this latest report. Another blood libel, another Israel-born guilty, another anti-Israel propaganda report. As ever, the truth is precisely the opposite of Human Rights Watch's nonsense. So here are the facts. Since the beginning of this war, Israel has facilitated a continuous flow of food, water and humanitarian aid into Gaza. 1,216,000 tons of aid. That's the latest figure this morning. 1,216,000 tons of aid have gone in. Hamas have tried to starve their own people by attacking Israel, by looting the deliveries and attacking the convoys. On water, Hamas actually dug up the water pipes to use as rockets against us. Israel has repaired water infrastructure. That means 4 water pipelines and water pumping and desalination plant Israel has defended and kept open. Water tankers have been delivered repeatedly by our international partners through Israeli crossings. I report on these myself every single day. Hamas systematically attacks and loots that aid. If you want Israel's reply to this report, I'll give it to you. It's a report full of lies, appalling by Human Rights Watch's standards. It's a race to the bottom between Amnesty and Human Rights Watch for who can defame Israel more. From Israel's perspective, we will continue to get humanitarian aid into Gaza in full compliance with international law. Next, on the latest figures from COGAT of aid going into Gaza in the last 24 hours, let me focus on water in this report, on water availability from water lines, from desalination plants and pumping facilities, 107 litres of water per person per day is available in northern Gaza. There are 34 litres per person per day in central Gaza and 20 litres per person per day in southern Gaza. Israel has facilitated hundreds of water infrastructure repairs, both in the north and southern Gaza. Israel's fixed water lines leading to Gaza on the Israeli side that were damaged by Hamas themselves. Some of these repairs were actually done under Hamas fire. Israel got the Kela electricity line, also damaged by Hamas on October 7th, repaired so that the desalination plant in Khan Yunis now works at full capacity. Daily, we coordinate the refueling of water pumping plants. Water also enters Israel from Israel on water aid trucks. We operate in accordance with international law. So that's the end of our briefing today. Please put your question in the chat together with your news outlet, and we'll take each one of your questions individually. First question I can see here is from David Clement at the News Forum in Canada. Does the PMO have a response to the accusation that the military fired into an ICU at Kamal Adwan Hospital? Thank you, David, for that question. I have not seen those reports. It sounds extremely unlikely that Israel's army would fire into a hospital, but I would advise you to go directly to the IDF for on that report. I haven't seen that report, and I've got nothing more to add to it. In all of this war, Israel has tried its hardest, more than any other nation in the history of this complex urban warfare. We believe that we have done more than any other nation to get people out of harm's way. The contrast on Hamas's side is they have tried to maximize civilian casualties. That is their modus operandi, to maximize civilian casualties, to maximize pressure on Israel. Hamas are prepared to fight till the last Gazan. Israel is getting people out of harm's way and directing our fight to Hamas directly. Next question is from Joel Pollock. I can see two questions here. Past strikes on Yemen did not seem to deter the Houthis from continuing to fire at Israel. Will this time be different? Thank you for that question, Joel. I shared with you in my briefing the Prime Minister's comments on the Houthis. We've talked about the 200 missiles and drone attacks that have come from Yemen against this country. Israel defended itself forcefully last night. Our objective is to neutralize the Houthi threat to this country. We know that the other threats have been degraded, heavily degraded around in our region, from Hamas, from Hezbollah, from Bashar, which has fallen, to Iran itself. It seems like the Houthis are the last of the proxies, or amongst the last of the proxies, which are aiming to hit us. This is an attempt at indiscriminate murder at this country. And let me put it this way, Joel. Israel will defend itself. Make no mistake. We've shown that in the last 14 months. Israel will defend itself. Next question from Joel Pollock. Could you comment on the Human Rights Watch report that Israel is committing genocide by denying water to Gaza? If you're not already done so in this briefing. Thank you, Joel. I think I gave a comprehensive reply from Israel on behalf of Israel to that erroneous report. Once again, another attempt to defame this country. These organizations, they exist to defame this country. I wonder, when we look at the horrors in the coming out of Syria right now, the horrors in the Syrian prison complexes, the inhumane treatment, the murder of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Syrians inside the Syrian prison network, and the mass graves inside Syria, one wonders how it is possible that massacres on this scale inside Syria, which are dwarfed in comparison to the loss of life here in Israel. Of course, every civilian death is a catastrophe, but the levels of devastation and killing by the Assad regime on his own people in Syria, they are many multitudes higher than the unfortunate deaths which have happened here in Israel in our conflict with the Palestinians. Yet the amount of attention by groups like Human Rights Watch, by groups like Amnesty International on Syria has been minimal, has been a fraction on the obsessional interest which they take on Israel. They are obsessed with Israel. We know what's behind it. I don't even have to say the word. They exist to defame this country, but it's about time that the world open their eyes to their obsession with us. And the Syrian example is it's just on our border, and the number of reports of Bashar's inhumanity towards his own people is a fraction, a mere mention in a sea of defaming Israel. Question from Fred Ager and your question is, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has expressed doubts about Israel's plan to withdraw troops from a buffer zone in Syria, claiming that it is the main beneficiary of the downfall of the Assad regime. What is Israel Prime Minister's office response to the Russia president's statement? Thank you for that question, Fred. Look, on Syria, let me, irrespective of those comments which you've shared with me from Russia's President Putin, we have no interest in conflict with Syria. Our default position is for neighbourly relations, but our policy on Syria simply reflects the reality on the ground. So let's be clear. For decades, Syria was an active enemy state. About 11 days ago, there was a $10 million bounty on the head of Jolani from the US. Syria has attacked Israel repeatedly. Iran and Hezbollah have embedded themselves in Syria, and they've attacked us from there, from Syria. Iran armed Hezbollah through Syria. Our policy on Syria is quite clear. This will not reoccur. The government has directed our army, our armed forces, to do two things. Number one, to thwart potential threats from Syria, and number two, to prevent terrorists from taking control close to our border. That is our policy. Good neighbours, most definitely. But the new Syria does not need chemical weapons. It does not need Russian MiG aircraft. It does not need long-range missiles. And it certainly does not need missiles capable of being fired at us here in Israel. Okay, that's the last question which I can see here. So in the meantime, you can contact us in the usual way for interview or for any other comment. So in the meantime, do please stay safe, and we'll see you at the next briefing. Thank you very much.